speaker for tonight, Paul McQ from Rockaway Island, New York.
My name is Paul, I'm an alcoholic, and it's good to be here and it's good to be sober. I want to thank the Fifth Tradition Group for giving me the opportunity to service here tonight. It's a great privilege and an honour to be asked to speak at a meeting of AA, and one I don't take lightly, and thank you so much, Steve, for getting this started. And I'd be remiss if I didn't say thank you so much to Austin and Joseph for coming to the airport and picking me up today and bringing me to where I'm staying at the Barn House. And I want to thank Joel. It's a beautiful property, and with bed and breakfast. I'm staying there. It's really spectacular. I mean, it's the towels in my room are so big and soft and fluffy. I can't tell you the trouble I had getting them into my suitcase, you know? I had to push down to get them all in there, you know? And it's so good to be here. I've been here before, and it's just so good to be back and see everybody. And I know we've got some new people here tonight. If you're new to Alcoholics Anonymous and you think you have a problem with alcohol, you're in the right place. And if you're new here tonight and you don't think you have a problem with alcohol, you're definitely in the right place, you know? That's how that thing sort of goes. And you probably hear from my accent, I'm not from the neighborhood originally. It's been many years now since I left my native Cuba, and I'm from Belfast in Northern Ireland, and the sort of neighborhood I came from, if you didn't drink, you moved. Everybody drank, you know, and the Irish, we have a tendency to talk fast, drunk or sober, but tell myself, slow down, slow down. In fact, I was speaking in a meeting recently, and a guy came up to me after the meeting, and he said, that looked like a great talk. I wish you had subtitles so I knew what the hell you were saying, you know? But, and it's so good to see I go to an online meeting with a bunch of guys every morning. It's so good to see my Rojo brothers here. And we were talking before the meeting, remember? This is a sign for laughter, and this is a sign for applause, you know, that we're going to do here tonight. And it's so good to be here, and it's so good to know who you are and where you belong. I'm an alcoholic, and I belong in Alcoholics Anonymous. In fact, I look at normal drinkers like I'm watching a National Geographic special. I mean, really, like I'm watching like the March of the Penguins, you know what I'm saying? You know, oh, when you see this one here, look, he's got half a drink left, he's getting in his car, and he's going home. Absolutely amazing, you know? I was over in Ireland there, and I was telling you the story, and I was over for a wedding. My niece was getting married, and the night before the wedding, they were having a big drinking session in the pub. And I go up and I get I'm sober, I go up and get a bunch of drinks, and I come back, and a few minutes later, my sister, who's a non-alcoholic, says to me, Paul, can you get me another drink? I said, no, I just got you a drink. She goes, I know, I set it down, and I don't know where I set it. So I'm thinking to myself, you lost it? I'm thinking about, how the hell do you lose a drink, you know? As an alcoholic, I'm thinking to myself, now I've lost my car. Now I understand. I've lost my job. I've lost days off the calendar. And that's because, as Dr. Young says to Roland Hazard, I have the mind of an alcoholic. And it's so good to know who you are and where you belong. I'm an alcoholic, and I belong in Alcoholics Anonymous. I've been surrendered by the bottle to the bottle. And if you're new here tonight, I want to welcome you to Alcoholics Anonymous. I'm not here to sell AA. This is attraction, not promotion. But I will tell you this, and I don't mean cash and prizes. You cannot get where I'm standing tonight from where I came from without Alcoholics Anonymous. It's an impossible journey. And why do I continue to come to AA? I know how the movie goes, but I wouldn't miss it to see someone walking in those doors on the worst night of their life and be given the grace not to drink. And AA is so much more than grace. It's mercy. And the definition of mercy I like the best is entering into the chaos of another person's life. And that's exactly what AA did for me back in August of 1992, when the few people left in my life was going that way. The only people coming this way was Alcoholics Anonymous. And they carried this message. My message might even keep me sober. They carried this message. And if you're new here tonight, what is the message of Alcoholics Anonymous? Our step one tells me that I have a body that won't let me drink and a mind that won't let me stop. That one drink creates a thirst I can't quench. That when I control my drinking, I don't enjoy it. And when I start to enjoy my drinking, I can't control it. With your help, and I say as a testament to AA, with your help, I haven't had a drink since I got here in August of 92. But I know today, and I hope I don't forget tomorrow, one drink tonight, not 5, not 10, one drink tonight, destination unknown. And that's what showed up here. And these beautiful people with this beautiful program brought me from a place of powerlessness and unmanageability, not to a place where I'm powerful, but a place where a friend of mine used to say, I'm standing here tonight, and because of Alcoholics Anonymous, I'm safe, and I'm sane, and I'm sober. And that's what I want to say to everybody issue here tonight. Come right into the middle of Alcoholics Anonymous. And don't think because you're new that you've got to meet AA. Drop an anchor where you are tonight, and Alcoholics Anonymous will meet you exactly where you are. And don't think because you've just got a few days, you've got nothing to offer AA. This is God's economy. And in God's economy, everyone has worth and value. I mean, AA is the only place I know in the world where the whole is greater than the sum of the parts. And we all come in here 1 day, 5 days, a month, 10 years. And we do together what I can't do alone. I mean, if you stay in Alcoholics Anonymous for a while, you'll get longevity, but not seniority. If I think I'm better than somebody else because I'm here a few 24s, shame on me. And get right into the middle of Alcoholics Anonymous. There's a line in our big book in chapter 4, and it talks about the old ancient theory of the flat earth, right? We used to believe in a flat earth. I'm a great believer that the AA world is a flat earth. If you go to the edge of AA, you're going off. And the thing about going to the edge of AA, it's a drift. It's almost a glacial drift. And by the time you get to the edge of Alcoholics Anonymous, if there's any signposts to the language you don't speak anymore and the language you don't understand anymore. Because we speak a certain language in AA. My disease speaks a certain language. The disease of alcoholism, you know where it operates? From the neck up. It wants me talking to me about me. That's a conversation that never ends well. Thank God in AA we speak a different language. We speak the language of the heart. I hope standing here tonight I don't talk to an alcoholic. I hope I don't talk at an alcoholic. I hope and pray I never get up the spiritual hilltop and talk down to an alcoholic. What is AA? If you bring it down to its simplest form, it's one alcoholic talking with another alcoholic to remove feelings of differentness and separateness and uniqueness. I am you and you are me. As my dear friend Liz B. from New York, and it's her, we have the same birthday, August 15th. She's passed away now. She was the first African American woman to get sober in AA. She got sober in July of 1952. And Liz would always say when she was sharing, without you, there's no me. So simple, but so deeply profound. If I'm doing A alone, I'm not doing AA. There's a friend of mine who says it's BB. I said, what's BB? He said, I don't know, but it's not AA, you know? So if you're new, ignore the negative message messages from the brain and get right into the middle of AA. And stay here with us. And this program's so simple I almost missed it. I mean, it's a funny place. I mean, I probably found out everything in the first 90 days that I needed to know in Alcoholics Anonymous. I mean, it's a funny place. They don't tell you 100 different things one time. They tell you 3 or 4 things 100 times over. And I gotta hear these things. I learned 2 plus 2 is 4 once in my life, never to learn it again. The fact that I'm powerless over alcohol and my life's unmanageable, drunk or sober, if I'm running it, that's a lesson I have to learn or understand or experience on a daily basis. It's one day at a time. It's the old joke in AA, a guy got drunk after a long time, a lot of years but not enough days. This is one day at a time. I love being sober, but I cannot tell you with mathematical certitude that I'll be sober this time next Saturday night. I plan to be, I will take actions to be, but I must do this thing one day at a time. Now, my own story, was I born an alcoholic? Did I become an alcoholic? Was it nature? Was it nurture? Was I a symptom looking for disease? I don't know, and I could care less tonight. Acceptance is the answer. Everything I needed to know, they told me, my name is Paul, and I am an alcoholic. That tells me who I am. That tells me what I am. That tells me where I am. And they told me when I got to AA, Paul, forget about everything else. Make that the central fact of your life on a daily basis, that your name is Paul and you're an alcoholic. And things around you may not be okay, but you will be okay. And that's what I want to say to anybody that's new here tonight. Make that the central fact of your life on a daily basis. Now, I've heard people tell different stories from the podium. Some people are successful. That's not my story. I came out of the starting blocks at 14 or 15 years of age. I mean, there's probably playing out neighbourhoods here tonight. I'm standing in a back alley in Belfast on a Saturday night, and there's 4 or 5 guys, and they're passing a bottle around, and the bottle got passed to me, and as I'm putting that first drink to my lips, I love that movie or the book, A Christmas Carol, of Charles Dickens. And it's just an allegory for life, right? You've got the ghost of the past, and the ghost of the present, and the ghost of the future. When I was taking that first drink, 15 years of age, up that back alley on a Saturday night, if the ghost of my alcoholic future had tapped me on the shoulder and said, I want to show you something. I want to show you where you're going to be in 15 years. Look in that window. You see that guy drinking around the clock against his own will? You see that guy who is quicksand stretched around him in all directions? You see that guy who has pushed away everybody that loved him? That will be you in 15 years. And I say, you're out of your mind. You must be thinking of somebody else. But that's exactly what happened. When they talk about in our literature, alcoholism is a herbaceous creditor. In the Merchant of Venice, Shylock just wanted 1 pound of flesh, not this disease. It'll take my job, my car, my wife, my kids. It'll take the shirt off my back. But what it really wants is me 6 feet under. There's a lot of terminal diseases out there tonight. I'm not familiar with those, but I'm familiar with this one. This disease, alcoholism, will kill me with or without a drink if I don't live on a daily basis by these spiritual principles. And when you think, if you're new here tonight, I don't want to make this a Q&A, but if you're new here tonight, just think what price this disease demanded that you paid the last year. When I think of what my disease didn't ask, demanded that I pay in the last year of my drinking, a shiver runs down my spine. I wouldn't let another man come close to doing to me what I allowed alcohol I'm not a violent man. Only ever had one bar fight, and that was a draw. Although most people watching said that she won, you know, and so we'll move on quickly from that, you know. But you think to yourself the price that this disease demands. And sure enough, at 15 years of age, promising soccer career out the window. Before I'm out of my teens, I'm a daily drinker. I've had the money. Before I'm out of my teens, I'm taking morning drink. Within 6 months of my first drink, I was getting my stomach pumped out in the local hospital on a school night. And they told my parents, it's a good job you brought him here. He probably would have died of alcoholic poisoning. And it got worse, and it got worse. But the good news is, if you're new here tonight, sobriety is progressive as well. Now, I'm not going to stand up here like some snake oil salesman. There's things I lost through drinking, and they didn't come back. There's things you may have lost through drinking. Thank God for this program. Who among us could live with the guilt and the shame and remorse of our drinking if it wasn't for these 12 steps to help us? I wasn't a sociopath. I knew the bridges I burned, the doors I slammed, the people I walked over and walked away from because of a drink. I can't change my past, but these steps have allowed me to live with my past today. Thank God for these 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous. So my life's fallen apart in Northern Ireland. I don't know if you know about Irish history, but I grew up the Troubles in Northern Ireland. We had like a low-level civil war. I was a working-class Catholic from the wrong side of the tracks. Big chip on my shoulder. In fact, when I got to AA, a guy says to me, you know something? You're a well-balanced guy. I said, finally somebody knows what's going on around here. He says, yes, you got a chip on both shoulders. Hated everything, hated everybody. So my life's fallen apart in Northern Ireland, but I never want to look in. I'm a finger pointer. I'm always into the blame game. That's the story of my life. I'm always looking for an outside fix for an inside job. So I'm blaming Northern Ireland and I can't get a break. And I come home to my father one night. You know, alcoholics were so dramatic. I said, Dad, sit down, I got some bad news for you. He said, what is it? I said, I'm going to America and don't try to talk me out of it. He says, talk me out of it, I'll help you pack. On you go, Columbus. Turn left at Greenland. I know we got some new people here tonight. They mightn't realize that Columbus was actually an alcoholic. When you think about it, he must have been an alcoholic. When he set off on his journey, he didn't know where he was going. When he got there, he didn't know where he was. When he got back, he didn't know where he had been. And he got a woman to pay for the trip, not once, but twice. So we know he might have been an alcoholic. I packed my bags and I driftwood. I washed up at Rockaway Beach, New York City. And to make matters worse, I got a job as a bartender. Now, I hold the distinct title of being the worst bartender in the worst bar in Rockaway Beach. I mean, I worked in a bar, oh my God, this bar had it all. Alcoholics, drug addicts, degenerate gamblers, and that was just the staff, that wasn't even the customers, you know? I mean, you all look like nice people. You know this sort of a bar, if you want to see a full set of teeth, you need 32 customers, you know what I'm saying? Sort of high-end place we're talking about. I'm looking at all these beautiful women here tonight. The bar I worked in, on ladies' night, the women that come into the bar, they look like they put their makeup on when they were jumping up and down on a trampoline, you know? It's like back over here and over here. But water finds its own level, and so do alcoholics. And I fitted it like a glove. I worked in a bar where I used to work from 6 at night to 4 in the morning. I mean, it's almost an embarrassed to say this. I worked in a job where I could walk behind the stick at 6 o'clock at night and pour myself a drink and put it in the speed rack. At the end of my drinking, I couldn't even get to that job. Fears, phobias, hang-ups. What's the old saying in AA? Booze give me the wings to fly, and then I took away the sky, the herbaceous creditor. I had my first hospital when I was 25 and an alcoholic convulsions. By the time I'm 27, I'm trying to stop drinking. I'm doing all that stuff in chapter 3. I'll stop for this and I'll stop for that. I'm putting X's on calendars. I stop, but I can't stay stopped. You know what A has given me that I can never repay them? A has given me something between me and the first drink. You hear people saying, hey, oh, you're just an arm's length away from a drink. I suppose technically that's true. Right here tonight, not because of me, but because of Alcoholics Anonymous, I'm 12 steps away from a drink. And that's a long way when I first walked in here. But don't get me wrong, they're not 12 steps up to anything. They're 12 steps down to humility. I seen people drink again in AA that I thought would never drink again. And it could be me. I get a daily reprieve, not a lifetime pardon. The day that I wake up and think I'm staying sober, is the day I'm getting ready to get drunk again. So I thank you for giving me something between me and the first drink. A friend of mine drank after a long time in AA. He said, you know how you get drunk in AA? You give those steps back one step at a time. Take your will back in 3, become insane in 2, so insane you tell yourself you're not an alcoholic or you don't cure, and get drunk again in the first step. Thankfully tonight, because of this program, I'm safe and protected, like it's those beautiful promises in the 10th step of the big book. So my life's falling apart, and I almost went to the graveyard thinking I had a drinking problem. A drinking problem is solved by not drinking. The big book talks about it. It gives some examples. A medical reason, a romantic reason, and those people can stop or even moderate. But then it talks about us. What about the real alcoholic? I don't have a drinking problem. It looks like a drinking problem, but it's alcoholism. It's a horse of a different color. Yes, it's physical. You can't enjoy being sober and drink booze at the same time. But it's also mental and spiritual and wrapped up in a body full of childish emotions. I'll give you one vignette that sums this up. At this stage of my drinking, barroom drinking was a memory. I would just lock myself in the apartment, to use a line from The Godfather. I'd just go to the mattresses, close the blinds, take the phone off the hook, and just drink for unconscious time. Drink for days and days and days. And I ran out of drink, but I'm a bartender in Rockaway. I know where to get drink in the middle of the night. And I'm in this bar, and the guy's cleaning up, and I collapsed in an alcoholic seizure. And I wake up in the local hospital. I'd been there before, and I was convulsing so bad, they had to put me on a restraining sheet. And they give me some Librium to get me off the ceiling. And they took the restraining cuffs off after a while. And there's a woman standing by the bedside, and with this, alcoholic on again, off again relationship. And I took her hand, and I wasn't trying to be cinematic, but I took her hand and I said to her, I can't drink. It's obvious I can't drink. I know I can't drink. That's it. I'm done. It's over. What does Bill say in the story? This has to stop. What does Bill Wilson say? Self-knowledge, surely that's the answer. No, it's not, as he says later. Knowing I'm an alcoholic will not keep me sober. If this is a one-step program, I'm a dead man walking, because I always drink again. And I always will drink again. I just love AA. We're so solution-based. The first step states the problem, and immediately it's 11 steps of solution to help me live out there. So I left that hospital convinced it's over. If you'd have put me in a lie detector machine in the lobby of the hospital, I would have passed with flying colors, because I meant it at a visceral level. But I left that hospital problem was step 1. I didn't know what the solution was step 12. And I hadn't got used good people to bring me between the two. With all of that conviction, it was still me against the first drink. And up until tonight, in single-handed combat, I have never beaten an obsession to drink. It's like getting in the ring with a heavyweight champion. A child could say, hey, don't get in the ring. But don't get in the ring means don't take the first drink. And I can't not take the first drink. So I keep getting back in the ring, telling myself the epitaph of the alcoholic. It'll be different this time. I'll watch it. The minute it gets out of control, I'll pull it right in. But I take that first drink and I'm off on the well-known spree that Dr. Slugworth talks about. I couldn't believe. Because see, here's how I know that I've got alcoholism. I left that hospital and I got a week. I'm 7 days off a drink. And all of a sudden, I've got this stone in my shoe. I don't know where it came from, but it's there all the time. 2 weeks go by, and I got 2 weeks. All of a sudden, I've got this knot in my stomach, and it feels like somebody's turning it each day like this. 3 weeks go by, and I got 3 weeks. The top button of my shirt feels tight. I'm tugging through gritted teeth. A month goes by. You could fry eggs in the back of my neck. Now I submit to you, after 30 days without a drink of alcohol, you put me in any machine in the world, you will not find a trace of alcohol in my body. I submit to you, that's not a drinking problem, that's a living sober problem. And that's why I need 12 steps, 12 traditions, a home group, a sponsor, unity, service, recovery, so I can live out there under God's conditions rather than my demands. And I drank again. I couldn't, it talks in our big book, The Bewildered One, I couldn't believe that I drank again. And that woman said, what non-alcoholic said, I gotta get away from you before I end up in the asylum. And I said what alcoholics said, I don't need you, I don't need anybody. And I drank for 2.5 more years after that. Bottoms to bottoms. But I love when someone's telling their story. And it goes down and it goes down. And then they say the most beautiful words in an AA talk. And then. When I hear an alcoholic say, and then, I sit up because I know the higher power is coming the next sentence. There's not a person in here tonight with 1 day or more that hasn't had an and then moment. And this is mine. I'm in the apartment, blinds closed again, drinking for unconscious time. Here's a recipe for unhappiness. Lock yourself in an apartment for about a week and a half, drinking round the clock, and play the saddest blues music that you can get. I was listening to great Warren Zevon, If You Won't Leave Me, I'll find somebody that will. Those are songs alcoholics like to listen to. Or the Al-Anon version of that song, If You Leave Me, Can I Come Too? I'm just joking. I'm just joking if anybody's here. So I'm drinking. I remember I've got mirror, and I'm putting a bottle of vodka to my lips, and I catch my reflection in the mirror, and I think to myself, what the hell happened to me? What happened to that 14 or 15-year-old kid back in Belfast that thought he was going to be the next George Best? Alcoholism happened. That's what happened. And I'm sitting there, and a piece of paper came under my door. I looked at this piece of paper. It said what I've been hearing since I was 16. Paul, you're a nice guy, but you drink too much, and had a man's telephone number on. Now, it's strange enough, a piece of paper coming on your door. The stranger thing is, I called the number. Because I'm Irish, I'm stoic, I'm a wall builder, I'm a secret keeper. Now, walls, Robert Frost says a wall's a good thing. Well, maybe if you're a New England farmer, but not if you're an alcoholic. And I built these walls high, and I built them deep. You weren't getting in, but guess what? I wasn't getting out. And I realized through this program, I put every brick, nobody else, on that wall. Nobody else did. I did. And I called this number, and a beautiful lady from Malinois answered the phone. And she called her husband. And he had been praying I might call. And he asked me where I lived, and I told him. And he said, me and another man's coming to your apartment. They're from the old South Bronx group in New York. What a group. That group had a mantra, we don't give up on anybody. What a great mantra for a home group. Now I thought there were two regular guys. One guy was a subway conductor, the other guy was a commercial removals guy in Manhattan. Now I thought they were going to come to my apartment and talk to me about my drinking. Because back in August of '92, that's how it would go. Maybe you've had these conversations with friends and family. Paul, we need to talk about your drinking. Do you know what you did last night? Do you know what you did last week? And I'd sit there like the dog in the window, and as they're talking to me, I'm thinking, I wish they would go away so we could go back drinking again. But these two men came to my apartment, and I'm sitting there. I didn't go to Skid Row, but I brought Skid Row to me. Bottles all over the place. I'm sitting on the edge of the bed, like that classic man in the bed. And these two men come in and they sat down. And here's the difference. Here's the difference in AA. They didn't talk about my drinking. They talked about their drinking. And they told story after story of their drinking. They didn't even mention my drinking. And what happened? What's our most prized possession in AA? Identification. They talked about them, and I found out about me. I told these two men in 20 minutes something I hadn't even told myself. I coughed up the big furball, and I said to these two men, I can't stop drinking. I can't stop. The last time they put me in a hospital, I was drinking the first day I got out of the hospital. What's wrong with me? And Jerry put his arm around me. I could cry thinking about it tonight. And he said the most beautiful words a suffering alcoholic can hear. He said, help is on the way. If you're new here tonight, and now you've found AA or AA has found you, let me tell you, help is on the way. You never have to live one more day than the way you've been living. You get to live two lives in one lifetime in Alcoholics Anonymous, and it can start tonight. Little did I know, August 20th, with my sobriety date. And about 36 hours later, those two men booked me into a car and brought me to my first meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous. I don't know, it was a classic New York City meeting, two speakers and a leader. I don't know who spoke. I don't know what was said. I don't remember what you said, but I remember how you made me feel. Those early days in there, that's why this wonderful group tonight, all the people welcoming me at the door. Those early days, don't get me wrong, the steps are important. There's a dear friend of mine says, it's those acts of kindness. When you're counting single digits, when you come into AA and you're in the vestibule, you're not really in AA and you can easily go out of AA. It was those beautiful acts of kindness. Like the following Saturday night, a guy says to me, Paul, right? I says, yeah. He says, you were here last week at your first meeting. I said, that's right. He says, you've got 7 days. Congratulations. I almost broke down and cried. Here's a guy who remembered my name, remembered how long I was sober. That's the stuff. This is all important. But those early days, that's what drew me right into the middle of Alcoholics Anonymous. The unconditional love that these people show. As I move along with this talk, I'd like to tell you that I come into AA and I grabbed the ball and scored a touchdown, but But I came into AA with a lot of old ideas. Barroom mentality. Barroom mentality that might serve you well at 2 o'clock in the morning, some Jill mill, but was not serving me well at AA. Now we talk about the 3 parts of the triangle: unity, service, and recovery. I was doing unity. I was going to lots of meetings. Service, I'm making more coffee than Juan Valdez, are you kidding me? But I wouldn't do door number 3. I wouldn't do recovery. The stepsy, touchy, feely. You know, I do these steps and the wind chimes hanging up around the house, you know. Joining Oprah's book club. Wearing flip-flops to winter time, you know what I mean? Contempt, prior to investigation, you're looking at it. The old Groucho Marx line, whatever it is, I'm against it. And you can fool them at the coffee pot at 7:30 at night. I've done it. How's it going, Paul? Oh, it's going great. You know when untreated alcoholism would come to visit me? 2 o'clock in the morning. Could'ves, should'ves, would'ves, guilt, shame, remorse, another sleepless night in sobriety. And every night at 3 o'clock in the morning, this book would magically appear at my bedside table. And the book was called, it wasn't a big book, it was called Where I Should Be in My Life by Now by Paul McQ. I hope you know that book at home. There's nothing good in that book at 3 o'clock in the morning with no program and no drink. And there was people, don't get me wrong, sponsor and whatnot. There was people pointing to the solution. But my ego, my God, Harry, Dr. Tebow, I was a great friend of AA, talked about the recuperative power of the alcoholic ego. My ego, even sitting in AA, is so defended. There was good people pointing to the solution, but my ego is so defended. You know what I do? Rather than look at what you're pointing at, I look at who's doing the pointing. What does he know? What does she know? What do they know? And my disease, my ego, will use that to dismiss you, disregard you, and push you away. I'm sitting in AA like the Heisman Trophy. You gotta let somebody in. Somebody has to know what time of day it is in my spiritual world. And I was 2.5 years off drink. We were talking about it earlier. I didn't know much money when I got here. 2.5 years into AA. I'm thousands upon thousands of dollars in debt. My credit cards are maxed out. My life's unmanageable. I'm still trying to fill the hole in my soul with outside stuff. But as a dear friend of mine always says, you always end up back in the same equation, me on me. I'm shackled to self by the very nature of this disease. The only way to get rid of the bondage of self is through these 12 steps. I've tried every other way of getting a vital spiritual experience. Nothing worked. Put these 12 steps into my life. I don't have to do these because they're nice. I have to do them because they're necessary. If I want to get physically and mentally and spiritually rehabilitated, I have to work this program. I know of no other way. I'm 2.5 years off drink. And a guy came in to meet one night, not my sponsor. And he says to me, Paul, can I talk to you for a second? I said, sure. He says, you're dying. And you're dying right in the middle of AA. He says, you know what you're like? You're like a starving man at a spiritual banquet. There's all this food on offer, and you're living on bread and water. He says, you know how I know? I've been there myself. That's exactly what I was doing. I still wasn't convinced. The next day, I'm driving out of the Brooklyn Battery Tunnel in New York City onto the Gowanus Expressway. 6 lanes, rush hour traffic, 2.5 years off drink, no program. And a guy cut me off. I'm And I go, really? I chase after him at 5 miles per hour in rush hour traffic. And I jam him against the guardrail. I'm blocking 3 lanes of rush hour traffic. I get out of my car. I go back to his car. There's an Asian man sitting behind the wheel shaking. His wife's crying in the passenger seat. And his 3 children are crying in the back of the car. This is 2.5 years off drink with no program. I never pulled a stunt, anything close to that when I was drinking. And here I am. I got back on my own car. I hit my head on the steering wheel. And I says, I'm crazier off drink than I was on it. And in some respects, that's true. I've been jumping off place twice in my life. Once with drink and once with no drink and no program. It's a different type of pain, but pain nonetheless. I got in my car. I go to my sponsor's house in name only. Sober a long time. You can bring a horse to water. You can make him thirsty, but you know how that ends. I says, Jimmy, I gotta talk to you. He says, what is it? I told him what I just told you. And he sat back smoking a cigar, and he says, let me ask you something. How old were you when this happened? I says, Jimmy, this happened 20 minutes ago on the Glass Express. Maybe we're getting like lost in translation here. Like I hooked on phonics, the Shamrock version, you know? And he coined that phrase from Dr. Tebow. His Majesty the baby. He says, you are a child in a man's body. You refuse to grow up in this program. He says, you know what? If you don't get it, you've been tiptoeing around this program, doing it your way, keep me at arm's length with your one-liners and your glib phrases. If you don't get into this program, if you don't get free from the one guy you've never got free from, which is you, and start living where you've never lived here now, your life's going to go unlived in AA, and that's on you. We talk about the terrible things that happen to people. Oh, did you hear? You know the saddest thing in AA is the unlived life sitting in the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous. Because I will not take actions I don't believe in. It's easy to do what you want to do in AA. I got sober doing things I didn't want to do, or how about this, doing things I didn't believe in. What has that got to do with me pouring vodka down my throat? But I was so beaten, I was willing to take actions that I didn't believe in and get results that I cannot deny here tonight. Is it nice to do the program and find out who you are and who you're not? Yeah, it's nice. Is it nice to get a full knowledge of your condition? Yeah, that's nice. But for what purpose? You know, my life caught on fire when I turned around and I took another man through this program. That's when great events came to pass. This program, I'm free here tonight. I grew up in Northern Ireland. We would talk about freedom. We would march in the streets for freedom. We'd sit in pubs and sing about freedom. I wouldn't have known freedom if it jumped up next to me. I'm free tonight. It mightn't seem much to somebody to get on a plane at JFK this morning and fly to Denver. That's a freedom I didn't have 32 years ago. Every decision I made was divided through a drink. Even the most basic, going from here to the car park. Is there enough booze to get me there? Will there be enough when I get there? Will there be enough to get me back here? And when you live here like that, your life gets smaller and smaller with less people in it. My life is full today. And it's full of good stuff. Oscar Wilde, the Irish writer, says, he knew the price of everything and the value of nothing. Alcoholics Anonymous, this program, has taught me things of real value. As a dear friend of mine used to say, the golden memories of a sober life. I'm so glad that AA is not a meritocracy by where your good deeds out there ensure how well you do in here. You'll have a different speaker here tonight. The blessings I've been given, the blessings and the things of real value. That was my birthday yesterday. I was 63 years on social media, but my daughter sent me an Instagram post. She's 21. I've got two daughters. I got a 21-year-old daughter and a 7-year-old daughter. I know what you're thinking. I don't know old enough to have a 7-year-old daughter. I get that. So my 21-year-old daughter sent me a screenshot that she had posted on Instagram. It was like a collage of pictures of her and I when she was younger and older, and it was beautiful. And then there was a caption that she'd written, and she wrote all these beautiful things. You're this, and you're that, and you're this, and you help me. And I thought to myself, you know, it was really nice, but it was a love letter for Alcoholics Anonymous. Everything that she was saying about me is because I'm a sober man in AA. Responsible, accountable, dependable. Show up, or said earlier on to Joel. You can fake loving somebody, but you can't fake showing up. You're there or you're not there. And you people help me to show up at every ball game, every theatre performance, every there in the front row. I was a no-show when I was drinking. You put a drink in me, all appointments are cancelled. It's no coincidence I'm in America with an Irish accent. I was a runner, a long-distance runner. Today, I can show up when life knocks on the front door, as it does, even in sobriety. I'm not getting a bottle of vodka right in the back window. I can open the door and live life today on life's terms. And those two girls were over yesterday for my birthday, and it's just, I mean, incredible. A good life, not a perfect life. But I've got a good life in sobriety. And I know there's a lot of new people here tonight. Getting sober's not easy. Getting sober is probably the hardest thing you'll ever do in your life, except one other thing: drink yourself to death. And the roller coaster goes up, and the roller coaster goes down. Just don't get off. Stay on. Ride it out. I know we threw the word miracle around a lot. What is a miracle? It's a complete reversal or upheaval of the laws of nature. It's in my nature tonight to be lying drunk somewhere, and I'm not. Now, how did that happen? Didn't happen because of me. It happened because of Alcoholics Anonymous. And if you're new here tonight, and this is not a sales pitch, this is my experience, there's a miracle here tonight with your name on it. Nobody can take it from you, and nobody can take it for you. Come into Alcoholics Anonymous. George Eliot, the writer, says, it's never too late to live the life you're meant to live. So come into AA and start to live the life that your higher power wants you to live before drink took you down a different road. I need to be actively my sponsor. I need to be actively sponsored. Thank you all the men that have helped me over the years. And through difficult times in sobriety, talking to Joel earlier, and through a divorce at 20 years sober, resentment to here, have it up to here. Another guy involved. But here's the wonderful thing. Now that I'm in AA, I never have to go through anything alone again. If I'm going through something alone in AA, it's because I want to. You know what gets you in trouble in AA when you've been here for a while? Spiritual pride. How can I go to my home group at 20 years sober and tell them my life's falling apart? Well, I don't need to do a PowerPoint presentation, but somebody has to know what's going on. What's the old saying? When you're inside the jar, you can't read the label. I need my sponsor. Paul, it may appear that way. Thank God for Bob. When I was going through a divorce, he told me, I don't want to take the high road. Do you know what was done to me? I took the high road. Thank God I took the high road. Taking actions I didn't want to take and getting results that I would never have believed in. I just want to end it. It's just a story that just sums up Alcoholics Anonymous. It's so good to know who you are and where you belong. My brother's sober back in Belfast. back there, I just love this fellowship. I was back in Belfast one time years ago, before I got married. I was over there for Christmas time. And the day after Christmas, they call it Boxing Day. And there's a prison outside Belfast, which is to keep all the political prisoners. It was called the Maze Prison. And during visiting hours, one of the paramilitary leaders got killed by the other paramilitary group during visiting hours. And Northern Ireland, the country was on the brink of a civil war. I mean, it was bad. And I was asked to speak at a meeting in Belfast that night. And my brother says to me, we can't go down into Belfast tonight. They're burning buses, there's barricades, there's riots all over the place. I says, I will go anyway. I love AA humour. We were going from West Belfast, which is all Catholic. And the meeting we were going to was in East Belfast, which is all Protestant. And there was 4 of us in the car. And I love AA gallows humour, because one of the guys says, just think, the last time a Catholic was in that part of Belfast after dark, he was in the trunk of the car, you know? We all laughed at that. And we took this circuitous route and got round all the buses that were burned, and it was incredible. We even got to the meeting, and the guys were standing out, small group, and the guys were standing outside the meeting, and they recognised one of the 4 guys, and the kids over there, they do a thing called joyriding, where they'll steal cars and drag them around and burn them out. So they saw our car, strange faces, and the chairperson, he knew the kids from the neighbourhood. He said, hey, leave that car alone. See these guys? They're friends of ours. And we went into that meeting that night, and I was thinking to myself, I couldn't think of one place, never mind Belfast, Northern Ireland, where Catholics and Protestants were sitting together that night, but they were sitting together in a meeting of AA. And all that stuff that was all over the 6 o'clock news was left where it should be left, in the parking lot. And we sat in that room that night, and we talked about our common problem and our common solution. And I realized, as extremely different as we were in many respects, those were my brothers that night in sobriety. And we do together what I can't do alone. A friend of mine was at a meeting in the Middle East, in Tel Aviv. At the end of the meeting, they were forming a circle to say the Serenity Prayer in English. And he said, is it odd or is it God? This Jewish man was standing next to a Muslim woman. And because of their respective religions, they're not allowed to have physical contact. And my friend says there was this pregnant sort of pause, and then she picked up a big book, and she held one side of the big book, and he held the other side of the big book, and the circle was formed. Guys, we get a front row seat in AA for the very best that humanity has to offer. Why do I continue to come to AA? The program's wonderful. It's the people. The people I've met this last 32 years, some of the most incredible people that have helped me navigate through difficult times and live in a good life today. And I get on that plane tomorrow morning and I go back to my life in New York. But I will never forget this night. I'll never forget this night. What's so sad in AA, it's the only place in the world that you can walk in a room full of strangers and start reminiscing. You're my people. I might not drink with you, but when you say you're an alcoholic, we're connected. I want to end with a few words that sum up how I feel about you and how I feel about Alcoholics Anonymous. This is the Irish blessing. May the road rise to meet you. May the wind be always at your back. May the sun shine warm upon your face. May the rains fall soft upon your fields. And until we meet again, may God hold you in the palm of his hand. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Paul. That was great.